Hi guys, and welcome to another review, which actually I should have already done, but time constraints and just busy living and getting on with my life just doesn't enable me to sometimes have time to do everything that I would like to. Anyway, on to today's review, and as you can see, it's a TWS review. And it's a review which I kind of alluded to it a couple of weeks ago when I mentioned these TWSs from Phil and from EarFun, and I have been listening to them. I've been giving them their deserved attention, and I've actually taken two completely out of the equation because I just feel that they just are not able to keep up with these ones. Let's put it that way. Actually, let me just put one more thing here, which is this one. Okay. All right. Tanchjim ECHO. First take of Tanchjim into the TWS world. Nice case, a little bit flimsy on the lid, but otherwise nice case. The shape initially alludes to the prism, to the oxygen, to the HANA, but it's a big shell, and honestly not the nicest fitting one. If the original, let's say, oxygen HANA had issues with fit to some people with regards to their nozzle length, this one, no, it actually does fit nicely in terms of the nozzle, but then it just sticks out too much, and it can be a bit of an issue where it can actually fall off. But anyway, that's the first one. Then we have the EarFun, the FreePro, the original one, okay, which was basically EarFun's version of the Phil T1 Pro, which was the China only model. Well, so much has been said about this TWS that I'm really not gonna get too much into it in that, but I will say this much. In standard format, it was good sounding, it was fine, it didn't really have any I mean, we must always look at this in the context of these are TWSs, okay? And I think that maybe one of the mistakes that people do, or they want to compare it with IEMs at the same price and this and this and that. I agree and I don't agree with that, okay? These are TWSs with the limitations that TWSs have. One of them obviously being the drivers used and the quality of the drivers used and the size of them, and then we are always going to be limited to the actual power that they can actually put out, while something like a Tanchjim Tanya, which is a cheap IEM, I mean this is like 22 bucks, will sound half decent if connected to your phone, but this thing will sound absolutely tremendous if you connect it up to something like a little Qlix Q5 5K or a BTR5 or a UPS4, UPS5, or any dongle for that matter. So further improving on what is basically a cheap IEM and making it a beast. With a TWS, you're always going to be limited to what the actual internal power can do, and that can be an issue. Okay, can be an issue because sometimes, and I think that is starting to happen more often than none, is that you actually have pretty good hardware, but that hardware then has also a limitation, which is the power that the actual TWSs can put out. Anyway, I guess they don't want anybody to go deaf, so that's why they don't make them overly powerful. Having said that, you do have some products like the UTWS from FIO and the 3 and the 5, the latest ones, which put out quite a bit of power, and those things are like they're very similar to what KZ also has in terms of the AZ09 and AZ10 and so on and so forth, but way more powerful than those. Anyway, back to what interests us, which is this is the original EarFun FreePro. As I was saying, it was an interesting little TWS. Had a nice fit. Sound was okay. It was fine. Nothing really to be said about that. It was then now substituted by the EarFun Pro 2, the FreePro2, sorry, which is this one. Okay, smaller case. The unit itself is almost the same size. I mean, we can compare here. The units are almost the same size. a little bit more roundish. That one's got a little bit more sharp edges, let's put it that way. And in standard format, which is this one that I have here, so I've got a standard one and one which has been modified, and I'll get to that in a second. In standard format, which is this, the standard EarFun Free Pro, the original one, is superior to this one. It is. Why? Because the tuning, the standard tuning that they have on this thing, for lack of a better word, sucks. It sounds closed, dark, just overly bassy. There's nothing, I'm going to say audiophile, but there's nothing musical about it. It is just, it's a beat. It's a beat, you know, it's boom, 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 and pity. So they had a fantastic product there, and they went back on the new one. This is a standard one, okay? I also have here the Phil T2 Pro, which is again the newer version, or the sister version of the EarFun Free Pro 2s, and it's the upgrade model to the T1 Pro, which was a Chinese only market TWS. I believe this is also a China only market. At least my one came from AliExpress, and all the menus and stuff are in Chinese, so I'm guessing this is going to be a China only unit. However, the tuning that they put on this, that's nice. So the tuning they have on this is very similar to the tuning that they had on the T1 Pro. It will eventually also have access to the app, which you can equalize like the T1 Pro did. And you know, if the T1 Pro in standard format was basically the same thing as the Free Pro, the original Free Pro, but because you had those equalizer, that app which allowed you to equalize and put settings and so on and so forth, it made it more fun, let's put it that way, and you could tailor it more to your personal taste. That was a perfect unit. This one, the T2, is the same thing. The app is still not the app is still not working, but it is available. I mean, when you actually go onto it, it already comes up there, but it's still not maybe finalized the working parameters for it. So I'm assuming that it will work as well nicely. But as it is standard Phil T2 Pro with standard EarFun Free Pro 2, no contest. This is a far superior unit. Nice sound, I mean, no contest, period, finished. Okay, what do I have behind it? I have behind it what I think is probably the deal to get from Phil. You can get the Phil T1 Lite, which is what this is here, and you can see it looks very similar to the EarFun, or more squarish edges and everything. You can get this thing for as low as $30, and I think this thing for $30 is a steal. Is a fantastic little TWS, honestly, fantastic, it's a steal. Now, onto, and of course, I've got here the Tanya, which is the one that I've kind of wanted to use as a comparison. Not so much because of the price, but because of what hardware-wise it carries, okay? These are all basically 6mm drivers, except for the Tanchjim, which is the Echo, which is a 10mm. Now, what was I going to say just a second ago, which is the Phil products, be it T1 Lite, T1 XS, T2 Pro, T1 Pro, everything, as is also the case with the EarFun products, okay? They have access to this app, which basically accesses the internals, the internal software, let's put it that way, of them, and enables and gives us access to also to a 10-band parametric equalizer. And that's where magic begins. That's basically where a gentleman called Olaf was able, that's how Olaf was able to basically, I believe at least, create his version by retuning the standard Free Pro in that collaboration that he did with EarFun. And as I say, you have access to download this app, and I'll make a link, I'll give a link in the description afterwards. It is not an easy app to work with, mind you. It is very fiddly. Until I actually got the gist of it, it was a hassle, and many times while doing the settings and adjusting it and everything with the tuning adjustments that Olaf does provide. If obviously you pay for them, they just wouldn't stick. They wouldn't stay, they wouldn't stay on the actual earphone. It would always revert back to stock. So be warned, it is not an easy app to get working, but once you get the gist of it and you figure out the little the little quirks that it has, it does work very well. And with regards to well, I'll start with the earphone. With regards to the earphone, it changes what is originally a TWS that I just want to hit with a hammer and destroy it into something very, very pleasurable to listen to. The same thing goes for the T1 Lite and for the EarFun Pro, the Free Pro, the original one. They both are running as well. Olaf's one of Olaf's tunings. He has quite a few that you can choose to, and I've actually also adjusted those tunings in slightly more to my taste. And the Free Pro, which in standard format sounds fine, but with the tuning, it sounds tremendous. That bloatiness of the bass goes away. The bloatiness of the mid bass, that thump, excessive thump, goes away. The mids open up. The highs become much smoother. Well, there aren't a lot of highs, but they are in the wrong places, in the wrong frequencies, and they can become somewhat aggressive. All of that goes away, and it makes for a very pleasing and easy to listen tuning. And I applied the same tuning as well on the T1 Lite, and again, if in standard format the T1 Lite sounds very good, perhaps even better than the standard Free Pro. Okay, so standard T1 Lite, better tuning than standard Free Pro. Once the Olaf's tunings are put on there, and I've adjusted them again slightly, these two are undistinguishable. And I mean, this is $50-$60. You can pick this up for 30. I think I've said everything. The same thing applies to the Free Pro 2. As I was saying earlier, stock, this thing, I mean, it's unlistenable, period. It's in stock form. It's got no mids. It's very dark, no highs. The bass is overly emphasized, very excessively emphasized. The tuning brings it all down 6 dBs more or less across the range, up to about 200 hertz. It boosts up specific areas around 6, 7, 8K, but it boosts them up in a sensible way, which makes sense, that it just opens up the sound completely, and also gives a little bit extra energy up higher. And I mean, it's day and night. You just cannot compare it. Okay, you just cannot compare it. The sound is tremendous. I mean, the difference in sound is tremendous. As for the Tanya, we all know what I think. We basically know what Tanya is all about. Oops, why is this out of focus? Hello, focus. There we go. We all know what this is all about. It's a harmonish tunes, IEM. It's got a bit of an emphasis on mid bass. The mids are good. They're very correct. The highs maybe slightly recessed, with regards to some music, and it's noticeable sometimes. But it's an IEM which is a surprise. It scales very well. It likes power, and with power it really opens up. And although not perfect, I mean, like I was saying, although maybe in terms of technicalities the soundstage might not be the widest, and maybe imaging is also not perfect, and so on and so forth. But again, we must always take this into context of what this is. This is a $20 IEM, which plays like a beast. I mean, some people even compared it to being the new blonde BLO3, you know, in that in such a small form factor. It was able to really bring a tuning which is very pleasing. I mean, the only other IEM of this size which jumps to my mind and I really enjoy it, and I actually think it's superior to the Tanya, mind you, as well, because it has more detailed retrieval capabilities, is the DQ-SM Hermit. Again, something that not many people know about. Build quality on that unit is amazing. It's a pity it doesn't have external removable cable, the same thing as the Tanya, but that unit is fantastic. But anyway, as I was saying, the Tanya, we all know what it is about. It doesn't pretend to be nothing that it isn't, but it's a nice sounding, easy listening sounding IEM. It's just a pleasure. You got to choose your tips right. I've got one set here running wide bores, and I've got another set here running some narrow bores, and I did that for the sake of being easier to compare and everything. And I like them both. They both have strengths and weaknesses. I mean, this one has a more open sound, and that's the one I actually end up listening to more often. And then finally, the Echo. And the Echo, what can I say about the Echo? The Echo has a sound which is very similar to a tuned EarFUN EarPro2 or EarPro. And it brings it stock in that it is very sub bass focused, not mid bass focused. The transition from the bass into the mids it's fine, although sometimes it just makes things a little bit dull. But it's fine. And then the rest of the mid range is again non-offensive. There are maybe occasions where there is a little bit of sibilance, but overall it's got a tuning. I don't have the graph of it actually with me here at least, but the tuning of it is very kind of it has some traces of Tanya. Okay, let's put it that way. The biggest difference is, instead of having that hump on the mid bass, it's flatter on the mid bass, and then it emphasizes the sub bass. But overall, it's a very kind of tuning along the lines of the Tanya, which means it's kind of a harmonish, V-ish kind of signature. Honestly, I'm not really going to get into technicalities with regards to any of these. I mean, if that's your thing, technicalities, fine. No quarrels with that. I've got no issues with that. But I think if you want to listen to the ultimate detail and to the ultimate whatever, you don't do that on the go or on the gym or something. You do it in a quiet place and so on and so forth. And in a quiet place, you're not going to end up using any of these. Let's be honest. You might use the Tanya, but you're not going to be ending up any of these. These are to be used on the go. You are working. You want to have a nice pair of earphones that can take calls and also listen to music decently. That's what this is for. You're at the gym, you're working out, and you don't want to listen to that crap they're playing over the stereo. You want to listen to your own music. This is perfect for that. So, with that in mind, soundstage and imaging and technical abilities in terms of detailed retrieval, and they are what they are. You might be surprised occasionally with one or two songs that you say, "Oh wow, I'm surprised they actually was able to reproduce that." But overall, let's I think stay away from that. The important thing is, how do they sound? Do they sound decent enough? Do they play well most genres of music? Yes, all of them play well. Genres. They all play well. All types of genres of music. Well, let's exclude the standard. This is not part of the equation. Okay, let's take this out of the way. Yeah. Okay. I've actually just put it away so it doesn't. Okay. So, be it the T1 Lite, be it the T2 Pro, be it the EarPro2, or be it the EarPro, or be it Tanchjim ECHO. And I said earlier, I took out the Moondrop Neko Cake, and I took out another one which I received in the meanwhile, which is the One Audio, because they are a completely different level compared to these. So any of these, they will play well most genres of music. they will play decently well rock, R&B, hip hop. I have to admit that on the tuned versions, on these two tuned versions, these two in particular, I was quite surprised at how capable they were to actually go and dig deep in the sub bass, more than actually the Echo. And the Echo has a 10mm driver, and the Echo is tuned for sub bass. So I was actually quite surprised how well they handled the sub bass department. You could feel rumble, you know, that was actually quite engaging, quite entertaining. With regards to vocals, they're all very similar. The one that will be the most recessed will be the standard T2 Pro here, but these three, they are all tuned. So these three and the standard Echo, they very equal in terms of vocals and instruments. The Echo sometimes can sound a little bit aggressive and a little bit harsh in some frequencies with some music, and some, you know, especially guitar instruments, some female voices, which begs the question, it's a pity that you don't have access to the internals like you do with the earphones, because if this thing was tunable like these are, this would be the one, period. And honestly, I don't know if Tanchjim is going to see this or not, but I'd love if Tanchjim did see this video, and if Tanchjim actually did make an app with a parametric equalizer, 10-band parametric equalizer, and made it accessible to all of us to change this thing into a beast, honestly, because it deserves it. The hardware is there, period. It just needs access to that hardware to bring out the best that it can. And that's basically what the app has done with the EarFun and with the fills. You have access, well, I've actually also connected the app to the Fill T2 Pro, just for you to know, and it works fine. I've just left it standard because that's the way I want it, for the sake of this comparison. So if you are willing to play around with the app, if you're willing to, you know, get around its quirks and stuff, and understand how it works, which is not difficult. Like I said, it's not difficult. It will take a little bit of getting used to it. You know, I think that the most sensible choices will be these three: either the Fill T1 or the EarFun Pro, the Free Pro, the original one, or then just go straight for the Free Pro 2. Okay, these will be the most sensible choices. That is the cheapest, around 30 bucks. This is about 50. This is about 60 something, but it's been available on discount for quite a while now. If you do not want to play around with no apps, if you do not want to do any of that, and your budget doesn't allow it, then Fill T1. If your budget does allow, if your budget can stretch a little bit more, then Tanchjim. Okay, knowing however that if you do ever want to play around with an app or like, you know, like I've done there, you will not be able to do it, at least for now. Okay, if you don't want to spend that much money, which is about $100, then you spend about 60 and you get this. Okay, how do these sound compared to the Tanya? Very similar, these two, very similar. The Tanya edges out because it can scale, because it can take more power, and will edge out the Echo. The Free Pro the Free Pro, the original, tuned, and the Free Pro 2 tuned. My opinion, there's very few instances that the Tanya does better than it. And the one area where the Tanya does not do better than them is above 5-6K. These just have that little extra energy which the parametric equalizer enables us to adjust, that just open up the sound and just make it a little bit nicer. And also the mid bass here being emphasized from fracture, and you cannot do anything to it, it becomes better quality in these two because you can tone it down slightly. Having said all of that, I'm using a Qdelix. This has a parametric equalizer, If you want to play with the parametric equalizer on the Tanya, be my guest, and yes, it will change it completely. So it's, look, very simple. I'm going to make things very simple for you right now. Is, do you like to play around, or do you want to just put in your ear something and listen to? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. If you just want to put something into your ears and just listen to it as it is and not play around because you don't want to or because you don't know or whatever, then the safest choice out of all of these, honestly, Phil T1 Lite. If you don't mind playing around, these two are excellent choices. I'm not suggesting the T2 Pro simply because it's got all Chinese menus, so leave it. So these two make sense. If you don't mind, again, the fact that you're going to have to carry some wires around, and then go for the Tanya. I mean, this is what, 20 bucks. You can buy yourself a BTR 3K. That will probably be what, 40-50 bucks, and you got some portability. If you have the extra money and you want to spend on something very different, then Tanchjim ECHO. Lastly, with regards to things as active noise cancelling and how are the call capabilities, and if you want to do some gaming with all of these and so on and so forth, I'll be very honest. With regards to calls, all of them worked beautifully. No issues there, good reception, my voice was heard clear, nothing there to be said. Active noise cancelling, I didn't really notice any difference, to be truthful. With regards to gaming, I don't game, I cannot give an opinion on how they are in terms of latency and so on and so forth. However, listening to videos or in movies on YouTube and so on and so forth, there it was perfect. All of them were perfect. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, in terms of charging and battery life, I get by very comfortably for 3-4 days with either the Echo or any one of the EARFUN options here. And yeah, and that's basically it. I mean, I know it's been a long review, but I just wanted to clarify things nicely and make sure that what I was saying was correct. And as is always the case, look, you can't please everybody. Not everybody's going to like TWSs. Some people will think that these things sound like garbage, whatever they are. I mean, for example, myself, I listened to the standard EarPhone, the EarPro2 when I got it, and being used to the original EarPro, I was like, oh my god, this thing is such garbage. What happened? And so I was very disappointed, and if I wasn't a person that likes to play around with apps and try and get the most out of it, I would have been really pissed off, to be honest. But I knew that I had the app to be a fallback option that would enable me to mess around with it, and I immediately started messing around and immediately changed the sound. And as soon as Olav made his tunings available, I tried one of his tunings and then adjusted it a little bit more to myself with regards to the resonant frequency of my ear canals, and all I can say is I've got no issues with any of them. They are beautiful, they play well. For me, the one that I would really like see shine would be the Echo. I really hope that Tanchjim will kind of see this video and give this reviewer some thought in that, yes, this thing deserves an app. Please make an app for this thing, make it available, or make it able to be tuned, because there's so much hidden potential in this thing, so much. Alright guys, thank you, take care, bye bye.